Evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting for June 19th, 2023. Thank you all for coming. If I could have you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So for our meetings, this is just a general announcement in regards to public comment. We're gonna have a public comment here in a moment, and there's two during the meeting. The first one can be on any topic. The second one at the end of the meeting will be only pertaining to topics that we previously discussed during this meeting. In between, I ask that you please hold your comments until the end of the meeting, unless we reach out to you. But at this point in time, do we have any public comments? Okay, all that. Thank you. Announcements and community calendar. So, mid-year tax bills, I know we talked about this at the last one, but they did go out in the mail in June. Everybody should have them by now. The anticipated due date of July 7th. Thank you to all those involved in getting those out. It was a great group effort. On Saturday, July 1st, 2023, New Hampshire Farm Museum will be hosting the 4th on the Farm. That'll be between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. The day will give both children and adults the time to reflect on the meaning of our American freedoms, our responsibility to our continued independence, and remember those who fought and paid the ultimate price. Witness horseback riders as they deliver the Declaration of Independence, to hear the Declaration of Independence read, and use a quill pen to sign your own John Hancock. So again, that's going to be on Saturday, July 1st. For all those that want to attend, that's a good event. All right, we got department head reports. Who would like to go first? All at once.
Here, in case I get, my day keeps going the way it's been. The last 3 have been going.
That good, I know.
Oh, the weekend's been that fun. So our officers participated in the summer kickoff, which unfortunately got rained out after halfway through the first day. They were excited to see the kids and have the residents and the children that did come go through the cruisers and the fire trucks and see all of our equipment and get some badges and different items that the officers had to hand out. And it was fun for them to talk to the people and kids that did come down to see the items. It's unfortunate that we've had a very rainy June, so a lot of things have been rained out.
Yep.
Again, we're seeing a lot of an increase in aggressive driving and improper driving throughout the town and on all roads in our community. We are putting the speed trailer out. We do have a schedule for the speed trailer, and we are trying to get it out onto as many roads as we possibly can. I did try to send the board an email with the statistics from St. James Ave. That's where the speed trailer is right now, but for some reason it got kicked back to me, so I will send it to you guys again.
Okay.
With the statistics from that road. We were getting complaints on St. James that a lot of cars were speeding on St. James Ave. We're not finding it with the speed trailer. What the statistics are showing us is that people are traveling between 20 and 25 miles an hour. The speed limit on St. James is 30 miles an hour.
Yep.
So most people are traveling below the posted speed limit. I'm guessing there are some outliers, but the majority of people are traveling appropriately on the road.
Okay.
We will move it to other roads, and we will continue to add roads to the schedule for the speed trailer, so that way we can try to increase where we need to patrol and where we're having the largest amount of problems or aggressive driving throughout town. We are seeing, as I said, we're seeing a big problem with that issue right now. But that's an issue throughout the state and throughout the country of people driving for the last 3 years have significantly been worse. I don't know why. We're starting to see an increase in property crimes here in town as well. We're seeing a lot of thefts of tools, and we're starting to see some trailer thefts again. So we're asking residents, if you start to see suspicious activity in your neighborhoods, call the dispatch. That way we can send an officer out. We'd rather come out and it be nothing and it just be somebody either looking at something that maybe they thought for sale, or somebody's just acting a little suspicious, but please call us. We are getting a couple of calls that people are calling because people are driving up long driveways, and saying they're lost. We understand people get lost, but if you are lost and you're driving down a road, don't pick the longest driveway with, you can't see the house from the road to drive up to that house. A lot of people get a little suspicious when you pick the house that's
Yeah.
got a 100-yard driveway and you can't see the house from the road because of the trees when you're pulling up to their house to knock on the door and say you're lost. If you're lost, call dispatch. We'll see what we can
Yeah.
do to get an officer out to help you, or see if dispatch can give you directions on where you're trying to go. We don't want anyone to get hurt. We don't wanna have any of the incidents that have happened in different parts of our country where somebody gets shot at because they drove up the wrong driveway, and somebody acts inappropriately because someone's actually lost and drove up a driveway. We are also seeing about 70% of our calls are mental health related, and have some type of mental health component attached to them. I know over the last 2 weeks, we've probably, on one day, we were supposed to have department training, to finish our yearly training for the year, on our use of force aspect, and that got sidetracked because we had 5 calls in a row, and all 5 of those calls were all mental health related. So we have sent all of our officers to CIT training, which is mental health training, on how to deal with the residents and visitors who are having a mental health situation, and allows the officers to have extra training in being able to deal with that. All of our officers are newer, so they don't have as much experience as, say, I may have in dealing with those types of situations, so it's good to send them to that training, and they get the experience of being able to talk directly to people who are dealing with those situations on a daily basis. It's a phenomenal 5-day training that the officers get to actually have hands-on contact with people who deal with bipolar and schizophrenia and things like that. And the officers get to ask questions. What's the best thing that we can do when we show up? What's the worst thing we do when we show up? So
Good.
it's a good training for them to have. Plus, it also allows the officers to be contacts for other officers who may be having that mental health situation, who are afraid to talk to their staff or talk to their own PD, because they're afraid they're gonna get in trouble for it. They can have someone to rely on and have a conversation with that person.
That's good.
One of the problems that we were seeing recently again as well is, as we like to touch on, is an RSA per month. So we're gonna touch on passing the school bus. We are seeing that again for some reason. I don't understand why this is a problem, but people decide that they wanna pass school buses when the stop sign is out. There's a reason why we have stop signs on school buses. There's a reason why school buses are giant and yellow and have red flashing lights and a big stop sign that pushes up the side to tell you to stop. Because there's little kids moving across the road, either on the door side or on the opposite side of the door, and crossing the road, and you may not see the child coming out of the driveway. You may not see them running quick from the side of the bus across the bus and to go through. The 5 minutes max that the school bus is pulled and stopped to pick up a kid is not worth you running over a child, so you can continue on wherever you need to go. We have turned into a society that is all about where I need to be, and I'm more important than everybody else, but we need to just start stopping. We're gonna do as much as we can when we get statements from the bus drivers to investigate those as thoroughly as we can, and we're just gonna continue to issue citations. And when they go in front of the judge, we're gonna ask the judge to give suspended licenses for the max that the judge can give when those citations come in front of a judge.
Isn't there cameras on the buses?
No.
There isn't? I mean, there's cameras inside the
There's
buses.
cameras inside the buses, but we don't have the
Okay.
cameras that are on the stop sign or push off the front sides of the buses.
Okay.
I would love to see that.
That'd be great.
Because that would be perfect. There would be zero excuse for anybody that passes
Mhm.
the school bus at that point, because you're on camera passing the school bus.
Yep.
I know that's a pretty significant cost to add that to buses that are already in service, but, if there's a grant out there, I'd love to see the school go for a grant like that
Yeah.
to push that forward, because I think it would be truly helpful.
Okay.
Can they legally do that? Can we do that?
Put the cameras on the
Yeah.
buses?
To get photos of the license plates?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's no different than you putting a dash camera into your personal vehicle. Because you're not audio and video you're just video recording, you're not audio recording.
Mhm.
So when a vehicle is driving down the road and doing that, there shouldn't be any issue with the school buses having them on there.
Mhm.
And most, I mean, I know, like Rochester has them on the outside, don't they?
I don't know what other communities have them.
There are some, we know there are communities that do
Yeah.
have them because they've had pictures, but it would be good to find out. Ryan, there's one maybe you take back to the school board? Thanks.
Thank you.
I know there's safety grants out there right now that we're actually looking into for different
Yeah.
things for the school, so.
There's also an ARPA grant for crimes out there, and that's a crime, so. Brian, you got anything for tonight?
So, fun and exciting news in our office here at Town Hall. We are operating with a staff of 2 people again. So that's really exciting. People are not having to wait as long. We find that they're a little friendlier when, we can talk to them other than, push them out the door.
Yep.
To get to the next person. So I do want to publicly thank the town for its support and understanding while I have been training, and there have been times when we have taken a little bit longer than we normally would, but people again seem to be receptive of that because of the situation. So we appreciate that. The dog licenses has become the next article that we're dealing with. We put together a report that we just need you guys to approve so we can get that out to Chief Kraus and begin that process. As far as the weather goes, it has been terrible, so I was curious as you guys were asking about beach passes and things like that, and we are showing we're actually down 42% in the sales of beach passes, both resident and non-resident. So, obviously the weather is affecting that, so hopefully, cause I know there has been some concern from some of the townspeople that, why are we paying for a beach pass? But, so hopefully it's not them not purchasing it
Yeah.
in, frustration that they would have to, it's just the fact that nobody actually wants to go to the beach in the pouring rain. So we are monitoring those things. Still a little slow on the DMV side for my training, but we're looking into that, and just to update you guys, I do still have to take that training class, so
Yep.
that's been in the works too. And you already covered the taxes, and as far as that goes, we are beginning to look into the lien and deed process portion of that
All right,
as they are due on the 7th.
great, thanks,
That's
Brian.
all I got.
Ian?
Sure.
All right, well, we're beginning to get to the busy season for the summer. In the library, we're starting our summer reading program with a kickoff this Friday. And then the following Friday, the 30th, we're having a joint thing with the Recreation Department and Milton Free Public Library and Newt Library. We're having Magic Fred at the beach with the Rec Department. So we're looking forward to a busy summer, and of course, we are sponsoring the parade this year for the 4th of July. We are going to be judging from 9 to 10 to award the spectacular prizes. If anybody wants to join us judging the best bike and the best float and the best decorated dog, meet us at 9 at the library on the 4th. We do have a couple of problems we want to talk to you about. We don't know about servicing our radiators in the library. We have a hot water system. We have radiators that just don't get any heat. In particular, the radiator in the bathroom gets no heat whatsoever, and the water in the toilet freezes. And this is a problem. We figured now was the time to bring this up because it's much easier to fix now than
Yep.
in the middle of the winter. We don't know who would take care of these radiators. Of course, these radiators are extremely old. But we need to do something to get the heat distributed. We have a fairly new heating plant in the basement, but the heat is not distributed through the building effectively, so we need to have some help with that. And our other
Have you
problem,
called grounds and buildings?
I was gonna say,
we
that's,
didn't know who to call.
Yeah, that's
You
the
know,
first
because
place
we have
is to
a-
call
we have
Public
a-
Works.
You know, we're all sort of new at this
Sure,
now that we
yep.
have a new library, so call building and grounds. Okay.
yep, at the
Pat
highway
Smith.
barn.
We will start there.
Okay.
And then, we hope you can help us. As we know, last December, we received three heating bills in December, and that threw all our budget planning out of whack. And we don't get any copy of a bill or a notice that oil has been delivered to us, so we have no idea how to plan for that. We only know when we get the next month's, at the end of the month, we get a printout of, you know, what has been spent. And that isn't terribly critical until we get to December, especially if we have a December where we get another 3 heating bills, because it just makes it impossible for the trustees and the library staff to plan on how much money they have left to end the year. So we'd like to be able to get a notice, an email, a copy of the bill, some sort of notice on at least the week, but hopefully the day that you receive notice that an oil delivery has been made. I don't know how we're gonna do that, but it would really be advantageous to our planning of
Yep.
how our funds are being spent, because obviously that was our problem this past year.
Yeah, you're obviously on auto
Yeah, but
supply, but it's, where's the bills coming to Brittany or?
No, they would go, well, there again, grounds and buildings is the one who set up, if they set it up as an
Auto
auto
delivery.
delivery, they're the ones.
so we should talk to,
Same place, yeah,
okay. All right,
because the bill's coming into some location, I didn't know if it was going over there or coming
Right.
here, but,
it doesn't come to the library, and we
Yeah.
just didn't know where it would be going, so
okay,
that's about it,
all right, yeah,
the library.
all right, thank you, Ann.
Okay.
I
Thank
think in
you.
the end, they may send the bill to us directly, but at least the program of delivery was set up by.
By building, yep. All right.
Steve. Good evening, how you doing?
Good, yeah.
Good. How's things going for Cemetery Sexton?
Going pretty well. I want to start off first by thanking the dozen or so volunteers who helped, working together, help make the Memorial Day flowers a success. Without everyone's help, we wouldn't have been able to get it done that afternoon before the thunderstorms rolled in, so that worked out well. Mowing is on its second round. It started this morning. The first mowing was completed the week of May 22nd, which was exactly 4 weeks from today. So those began this morning. We've had one full burial in the past month, and there's currently one application out for a plot purchase. That's all we have on that. Lastly, I've been informed this weekend that the Wentworth Cemetery, which is up on Tenerife and Mason corners, the words that were relayed to me is that it's falling apart. I haven't been up yet, but I do plan to go conduct a walkthrough, scope out what's going on, and possible solutions to address the concerns.
Okay.
That's really all I have right now.
Good.
All right, thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
And thanks for letting us know about that cemetery.
Yeah, that's great.
Take a ride up there.
All right, I know I've got Karen's report. And, I'll go through what she's got. So, but the reason Karen's not here tonight is because they're doing the training for the Camp 3 Pond starting tonight and tomorrow. So, the summer kickoff, the Recreation Department would like to thank all our vendors who came out to be part of our annual Milton Summer Kickoff. I know the chief already addressed this too, but although Mother Nature had her way and handed us some cold, rainy days, we still had fun. A big thanks to the South Shore Outboard Association for their continued participation in the event. We'll begin the planning of next year's event and keep our fingers crossed that we get some better weather next year. Senior bingo and luncheon. Seniors enjoyed their May luncheon on Tuesday, May 23rd. They served summer salads, pasta and potato, as well as sandwiches, chips, drinks, and dessert. The senior bingo program will still go on during the summer months, but senior luncheons are on break until the fall. So the upcoming bingo dates are June 20th, so tomorrow, July 11th, July 18th, and July 25th. Kids Night Out, this is May Kids Night Out, was a lot of fun. We hosted an event at the town beach and had a great turnout. The kids hunted for treasure in the sand, played games, and had a great time on the playground. They offered a movie, but the kids were having so much fun running around that they chose not to watch it. So, that's great to hear. Kids Night Out will be taking a break until the fall, as most of the kids who attend are also part of the summer camp. Zumba. The Zumba class is going strong. Occasionally it's offered on Sunday mornings as well as Wednesday evenings, and both classes are well attended. Much thanks to Nancy Coyne, who continues to offer this class for free. Camp Three Ponds opens on June 26th. So their 2023 staff training has begun. As I said, that's starting today, and the excitement is building for Camp Three Ponds for 2023. There are 133 registered campers with a waiting list to get in. They're going to continue to fill in spots as they become available. The first Friday of camp they'll be co-hosting a program with our town libraries that Ann mentioned, and enjoying a magic show with Magic Fred the Magician, so that's a good one. Friday afternoon's farmers market. The recreation department is looking for interested vendors who would be available to participate in a weekly farmers market to begin in July after the holiday. The market would take place from 4:30 to 7:30 on the ball field, weather permitting. We'll also send out invites to all the vendors who signed up for the kickoff event to see if we can get enough interest to get a market off the ground. So respectfully submitted by Karen J. Brown, Recreation Director. That's great. Thank you. Let's see, I think that's it. I know Nick's not in tonight, so Pat gave us his report back in the last month, so. Next order of business, the nitrogen reduction grant. Certificate of vote to authorize the signature and request bypassing QBS for the project, so with that in mind, I know that's the one, Chris, we're looking to.
Yeah, the application has laid out, first they want, first part under section D, well, they always looking for who prepared it, who's signing on behalf of the town.
Yep.
And it's merely just preparation. So to back up, this is not a new grant, this
No.
is the same $100,000 grant that the voters said that we could accept back, was Article 7 under the March election. The second thing would be to name the 3 people that would have the authority in the future to disperse funds, knowing that, you know, we'd get a bill from, let's say, a third-party consultant. You could, if you're gonna sign the checks, I think it makes common sense that you'd have on paper on this loan application, the final application, to have you down as dispersing funds. And lastly, it said, 3 people by position named to sign the loan execution. So what will happen is there will be a set of documents produced by DES, cause these are clean water monies, i.e. sewer-related monies. We sign first, they sign second, then it goes to governing council for approval. And I have 0 responsibility under loan execution, meaning actually signing for the money. So those are the, if you agree
So
with
the-
those.
Yep, the first order of business obviously is for you to be the designee for filing the application, so I make a motion for Town Administrator Chris Jacobs to be the one who files the application.
Oh, second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. All right, and then, as he stated, it'll be, I'll make the motion, it's gonna be myself, Claudine, and Andy as the 3 names to disperse funds.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
And
The way I wrote it,
and the
way I
loan
wrote it up,
execution.
or where I will write it up, is, it's gonna be it's the chairman of the board, the vice chairman of the board,
Yep.
so if people
If it changes, then.
changes, it's the
Yep.
position also that has the
Yep.
authority.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
Just you realize.
So the last one is the loan execution, and as I said, chairman of the board, currently myself, vice chairman of the board, currently Claudine, and the selectman, Andy Rawson. Make the motion to move forward with that.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. That's good, because that's a major, that's a plus, the $100,000 will be
Yeah, so that,
well utilized.
it's gonna be a lot of data collection for, all
Yep.
Milton's 3 ponds. We're gonna use it for multiple things, somewhat to address, what's going on, cause our water does eventually reach Great Bay.
Mhm.
And kind of find out they have no data to tell them what the water actually starts out at. Is it already contaminated? They don't know. They just know what happens when it reaches the bay, so, that's was one of the reasons, we requested this.
Now, the last part of that one is to bypass the QBS process,
Yeah.
because this money's already part of the Stratford Regional Planning Commission
Right.
issue, and it's
it was
a
a
straight grant, so,
Yeah.
so
But
I make a
they-
motion.
They're gonna use, it's not just bypassing QBS, quality-based selection process for them. There is a third-party consultant that
Mhm.
they initially put all this together with.
Yep.
They're asking us to just be able to use that third-party consultant.
So, I will make the motion to move forward with the third-party consultant that Stratford Regional Planning is already utilizing.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Easton Materials LLC, that's the request to release the bond for the former gravel pit?
Yeah, the former, I think it's the former Zerbic pit that was being operated, yeah, Jones Brook LLP.
Yep.
That would be the same one. Map 17, lot 22. When the request came in, gave it over to Bruce Woodruff and Brian Boyers, asked them, I really thought it was the planning board's, purview to release this.
Hmm,
Bruce said, no, it was theirs to determine whether it was, the reclamation's been completed, which it has, but the actual bond is held by the town in reality, so that's why it's before you.
okay. So, I know that I saw the report, and everything's been restored. So I will make a motion to release Eastern Materials LLC from the need for the bond to cover the cost of reclamation of the gravel extraction on the property owned by Jones Brook LLP, map 17, lot 22.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm glad you wrote that all down for me, Chris,
Yeah.
thank you.
Those are helpful.
Yeah, a little more than I expected. All right, so the next up is a request a contract from JS Marine and Vinyl Works. That's for our signs for the new townhouse. And we.
Town hall?
Town hall over there, yep, over at 55 Industrial Way. So the proposal is, and as Chris put it, we put it out for 2 vendors, and we heard back from 1 vendor.
Hmm.
So for the 2 signs, we have, you guys look at the proposal?
Mm-hmm.
I did. I'm just curious, so they're vinyl, so are they, like, is that permanent, or?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a permanent type of structure as well? When I think vinyl, I'm thinking banners, but this is an
Yeah,
actual
no,
structure.
so it's a
of some
vinyl, it's
Two-sided
actually a
sign.
vinyl seal, if you will, that's gonna go on a, all-weather, piece of, I guess it's, they have a term for it, exterior plywood that it's
Mhm.
all-weather. So, for instance, the sign is gonna be
sort.
So
Right.
it's on
Yep.
PVC
big town
board.
seal, right?
Mhm.
PVC
That's
board.
actually a vinyl overlay that he
Oh, I see.
applies, that's
Mhm.
where the vinyl comes in.
Okay.
Yep.
And do we have a picture of what that structure would look like of the sign?
4x8 sheet of plywood.
And here's the sign that we approved.
Right,
And-
that I
But
understand.
the 4,
but I'm
it's a
just-
4x8 sign, on an A-frame is what they were saying.
So the one in front of Town Hall, which is, currently there, is a 4x8. So you can envision just literally a big PVC board this big. If this is the 4 and that's the 8, and that's literally all it's gonna say on it.
And are there any lights to reflect up
There
on
are
it?
currently none.
So we can get like some kind of solar
Yeah, we
Yeah.
could get solar
spotlights on
Yeah.
that?
That'd be good.
Yeah.
Um,
And, the one that's gonna go out on Route 125 will be double-sided also.
With the arrow.
And hopefully, we talked about, you know, if you're coming towards the mills, we want the arrow this way. If you're coming from the mills, we want the arrow the other way on this side.
So that one will be on the road.
That will be on the road, and it's gonna be basically like an A-frame on each end. I also attached to your packet an email with the same documentation that I provided DOT, asking if we could keep that sign out there for at least till October of next year. And then just have any discussions with them about maybe the need for a permanent sign. My concern is that people will be flying up or down 125 and not realize this is the entrance, even though there's a street sign there.
So my concern is that on the ground level?
That would be on ground level, couple of blocks up to keep it out of the snow, but it'll definitely be ground mounted.
Yeah,
at
a
this
couple
point.
blocks might be still too low. That's what my concern is, and if people,
Okay.
if it might get, I don't know,
Yeah,
like,
I can talk to
just-
Jason about it.
we might
Yeah.
need to think about it a
See
little
how
bit.
big the A-frame is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So it doesn't get plowed over with
Yeah,
plows?
it's gonna be
or-
behind the utility pole, so I know the
Okay.
snowbank won't actually hit it.
Mm.
Okay,
But you're right, the snowbank could get so high if we have a rough winter that you wouldn't even be able to see it, so.
We can always have DPW clean it out.
We putting this on the north entrance, closest to the
Correct.
town hall, right?
North entrance.
And what are we doing on, because there's currently the small sign that's on the industrial park sign that when it was the daycare facility,
I have ordered nothing for that.
okay. I'm saying that would probably come down and we wouldn't, I mean, we only really need to have
Eventually, what
one.
I'd like to do is take the one that's gonna be on the opposite side, and we'd have to clear some trees and make an approach area
Mm.
and mount that. Well,
the one with the arrow.
this side, yes, the one with the arrows on that
Yeah.
inside corner. But
Yep.
at first, I thought I'd keep, there's more, there's a greater sight distance, lead time.
On the north side, yeah, there
Yeah.
is. You don't have the garage and all that interfering with it.
Right, so people would see it.
Now, one thing we didn't talk about is the existing sign that we have, we got the lettering and things like that for meetings, so what do we gotta discuss what we're gonna do with that
Yeah, this one I
too.
hadn't, you know, the other thing that was suggested at one time was to put a actual programmable message board
Mm.
out there by the road.
Yep.
But that's a $50,000
Yeah.
item, and, I've been keeping track of my expenses, and I probably have 40,000 roughly in the ARPA money. And I've yet to pay a mover, install the
Right.
cable, make sure the phones get installed correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, there may be money left over, but,
Yeah. No, we gotta,
as I said,
we
been
gotta spend
watching
it wisely.
very tightly,
Yep.
so.
Okay.
So, I have a motion on that.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to, contract, with J&S Marines and Vinyl Works, to do the signs for the new town hall.
Okay.
What's the sum?
2885,
There you go. That's my motion.
I'll second.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, so next, next, order of business, the request to refund vehicle registration fee. I'm aware of the situation, we had the gentleman that, came in, registered the vehicle with a new registration, only to find out it would've cost less. Mr. Darling was requesting the refund
Yeah.
of $428,
Yeah.
which is the process we have to go through to get him back, the difference.
Cause as I explained to him, Brian's office can accept money, but he doesn't really have the authority
To give it back.
let's say, give it back.
Yeah.
It really is, a request to disperse funds. And this is the same way Michelle did it,
Mhm.
when it occurred about a year ago,
Yep.
or a year and a half ago when she was here.
So as we see here, Brian put the letter to us requesting that to be done, so do I have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to, refund Mr. Darling a total of $428, the difference, that would have been made on transferring plates.
Okay,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you. Next up, Yes. The the Juneteenth holiday memorandum review. You guys get a chance to see what Chris had sent out? And I know that it's been most of the towns on this list have added that because it is a federal holiday.
What I found was interesting is that the cities had all adopted it.
Right, but the
And
towns.
the towns were more hesitant to grant another holiday. For instance, even after I put this together, there was about 6 other towns. It seemed that on the town side, everyone was like, yeah, if we do it, it ought to be a floating holiday, was one of the things, meaning, if you did recognize it, that someone didn't have to take it that particular day. That was the suggestion of a couple of the other communities. To that effort, I looked at the 24 and 25 vacation schedules, and one of the interesting things is, for instance, next year, July 4th will fall on a Thursday. What I expect is that on the 5th, there'll be nobody in town hall, either, maybe 2 car registrations. Everybody else will be in the on vacation mode. And that even some of the staff would end up using sick days or personal days or a vacation day to take it. If we were gonna do this, that my suggestion would be, just like the other towns did, that it be a floater. I looked at 25, same thing there. Christmas falls on a Thursday in 2025. How many people do you think I'm actually gonna have here in town hall on
The 26th. Well, either week, that week
unless
or the
you've gotten
following
a
week.
new car for Christmas?
Yep.
Other than that, I don't really expect, so that's my input on it. And,
Well, my take on it was part of when the discussion I had with you, and I wanna share, was, this is the type of thing, to me, would go to a public vote. Let the governing body determine if we wanna add another, do we wanna add another holiday?
We're talking about a paid holiday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's just it. Do we wanna do that? But to me, that should go to the voters. You know?
So my take is,
Yep.
It's not a state holiday.
It's not a state, that's right.
Schools did not have a holiday.
Nope.
Most schools, maybe in these towns they did. So we can put it out to vote, that's
Mhm.
fine, people can decide, and I'm fine with that. Other than that,
Yeah, I'm not
I'm not
looking forward to
interested in
just
adding
saying,
another
let's
paid
just make it
holiday.
another one without going and finding out. People are gonna realize how much it costs the town when we're paying for everybody to be out of work. You know, that's a pretty costly day, and we've already got a pretty good holiday schedule, but what's your thoughts?
It's a good thing about living in a SB2 town.
Yep.
Let it go to vote.
Mhm,
Let the voters decide.
exactly.
So we put that on a warrant article and
Sure.
go from there? All right. American Flag Committee, Charge Policy and Committee Review. I wanna first start off by thanking Chris, you and your father, for, we talked and we got some flags together, cause I wanna start off by saying thank you to Paul Steer for the Milton Mills arrangements, putting all the flags down there. Paul started that last year, and I know we talked about trying to do it here on the main run in Milton, so we have started. And Chris and his father went and put the first 3 flags up downtown. We got some.
Before it rained.
In the rain.
Before it rained.
Yeah, before it rained. Well, that's pretty much been all of June.
Yeah.
So, and in the rain, I went down and saw Mike Tadges down at Milton Hardware. I want to thank Mike. He gave us quite the deal. Matter of fact, about 70% off the cost for the flagpole kit that when I ordered 15 of them, actually 14 of them. He's got one that we picked up, and we had who was the donation? Well, I want to thank Mike Nee first, also over at China Pond.
Yep.
Chris
Mike's
talked
gonna
with
do
Mike
the same.
Nee, and Mike's going to take care of the flags out in front of the China Pond establishment. So we will have enough flags to do all of downtown, and it looks like we're gonna have enough flags to do out towards the beach. I know the gap in between, there's no real poles to work on, so the idea is to start on the northern side of the park at this point, and then we can go from
Veterans
there.
Park, yeah.
And work our way up to Depot Road. And then it would be to go on the other side of the tracks near the transfer station and go north there. So thank you to everyone that's been involved. I know we gotta look at the policy, and I'm not saying we gotta vote on it tonight, but
Yeah.
the idea behind it is to kinda have a committee to go through, to make sure that what we're looking at is just American flags. That the idea isn't to turn around and now all the special groups and everything you can think of, that becomes a
Yeah.
nightmare.
I didn't
but-
wanna be, if I was gonna be responsible for putting up most of them, I didn't wanna be on the Flag of the Week Club.
Right.
To put it mildly, you know, the thought was make an effort to get them all up by Memorial Day and down by, I would say,
Columbus.
mid-October or Columbus Day.
Yep.
Because then the weather just turns sour, pretty sour after that. So, but that, off-season, the flags would be kept, warm, well, dry, so they wouldn't rot, so they wouldn't, mold up, and then, they'll be available for every, you know, and I don't mind keeping it going, to the point until I can't climb the ladder anymore. But, yeah, so,
Well, it would be nice to have a small crew
yeah, and it.
Yeah,
available
if
to
we do
do
that.
that too,
And
so.
that's,
Yeah.
that has, to fill in, it was Paul's start, and then I put up a flag. The neighbors asked, well, how many, can you put up more flags? And I was like, well, this is what it will take. Well, we'll ask our friends. So the next thing I know, I have a donation from my neighbors for $100 to buy flags. I gave it to the, Mike at the hardware store, said, see how much far you can get this to go. I saw Bob Graham with the American Legion. He said they'd like to get involved. He came by with a donation today. Again, I gave it to Mike and said, see how many more flags you can get us. Stephen has, we've talked about it twice, he'd like to get involved, and knows some people that would like to donate flags or money to buy flags. So I think between, I'm sure there's gonna be a group of people that form it, but that's why I put together an American flag charge document to
Mhm.
say that, A, it would only be American flags, B, the time schedule, you know, so there'd be some orderliness and also some continuum. If I, as I say, when I'm 75 and can't go up and down the ladder anymore,
If
it'll
we
be
get,
time
you know,
for
that
others.
many flags,
Huh?
if we get, you know, that many flags,
It's
the problem-
79 flags from Route 75 to the townhouse. And then the suggestion's been made, if we have more, can we continue up over Plummer's Ridge and go right down to exit 18? Because the town hall would be up in that area. And I think it would be a real beautiful thing to see,
Mm.
all those
Absolutely.
flags going up
Yep.
over Plummer's Ridge, so.
So in going through, and I know I looked, you had used the charge policy for the community power
It's
action
the
group.
same
You just
basic
put, yeah, it's the
charge
standard one.
policy, and I just keep
So,
changing the players. and
The only
names.
thing, and I just forwarded my comments, I hadn't sent it to you guys, but I just forwarded a bunch of documents. It includes the flag committee policy for us to look at. I think we can vote on at the next meeting.
Sure.
And for signing purposes, but the one thing I wanted to make sure was, like, when you and I talked about the donations, that we needed to capture some way in there to deal with it, and RSA 3119 allows us to take in donations for the town, but we really have to have a place kind of to put it. Like you said, we don't have a line item, it's not something that would go into the general fund, so it might be worthwhile to look at a trust fund to be able to put money
trust
in.
fund or something like that.
So that
yeah.
we can utilize that. I mean, it can't be, I looked it up, it can't be a revolving fund, because it doesn't meet the requirements of a revolving fund, but it does meet the requirements for a trust fund.
Okay.
So,
I just wanted to be very above board with
Yep.
whatever funds we got,
Mhm.
and not be in a situation where if people could ask, I mean, I already started a spreadsheet to keep track of the expenses we've already had, and,
Yep.
just so that there's, it's transparent, that's the
Yep.
word that's been used, so that the whole work of the committee is transparent.
No,
once
and-
all the brackets
that's it.
are up, then it's a fairly,
yeah,
Yeah, it's funny, so,
True.
like the metal brackets that are on the poles in front of Cumberland Farms heading to the China Pond are devastated. They got, the wind really did a number on them.
That's what
So
I
those are
thought.
gonna get replaced.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, some of the other brackets that we've gotten, are plastic. I'm not sure how many years they would last.
They may
or
last
how many
one or two,
seasons.
but yeah.
They
But,
do
yeah,
get beat
so
up
I'm
pretty
sure
bad.
there's gonna be, somewhat of a learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
I already have 4 metal brackets to replace those other ones, and I think there's 5 flag sets already in the car, so, that'll be this week's work. And then when Mike gets the other ones in, the idea is to try and have them up for Independence Day.
Yep.
Excellent.
Yeah, if you need help, let me know.
Okay.
I'll put,
All right. Well,
it's
Yeah,
easier.
we turn around and set something up
I
so
might
we
be
can.
able to send some help your way too.
Okay.
All right, and, so, yeah, like I said, we'll please review that, make sure we're all set for putting that out there, but I do wanna put it out to everyone. We are gonna look for some people that wanna be a part of that committee to just help us with the flag, so Steve, thank you for that as well. And anyone else, please contact Chris Jacobs and let him know if of your intent, your interest, we'd appreciate that. All right, next up. Laura, your presentation on the, Budget Committee Chair, Laura Turgeon.
Good evening, everyone.
How you doing, Laura?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Glad to see that there's finally some sun in the sky.
Don't say anything.
No, it's not gonna last long. I came here tonight, because over the last few weeks, one of the Budget Committee members had asked a few questions for Chief Marique. As the Budget Committee Chair, I invited the Chief to address those questions. And there were a few talking points that I'd like to address with the Board of Selectmen. The first one was the Chief had stated that he is currently using the ambulance revolving fund to purchase diesel fuel in town at places like Cumberland Farms and the mobile station. It was my understanding that there is a state contract pricing that the town can use to keep costs down for diesel fuel. And when I asked the chief who gave him permission to use that fund to purchase fuel, he said the Board of Selectmen. So I'd love to see you guys elaborate on that a little bit, and the other question on that is why we would not use the state contracted pricing. So I don't know if you have any answers to that, or I can just continue on and you can.
No, and you can address them one at a time. if you-
Okay.
That's purchasing fuel is an operational thing. We've been very clear with the department heads. I'm not gonna tell Chief Kraus where he can stop for lunch, or, or where his officers can go or can't go, where they buy the fuel. They have to figure out a way to live within their budget, and I know the police department does use the WEX card a lot. They may be buying it, they may still be using the WEX card, and that's WEX, at, you can use it at any, gas distributor, and WEX has a bulk price or a group price. The other thing is we don't get charged any of the federal or state fuel surcharges when using the WEX card. So the answer might have been yes, he was buying it at Cumberland Farms, but we still probably were getting at either below or matching the state price. I know when I was in another community 3 years ago, the WEX card at any station was less expensive than going to the state line, because the state bought it for a full year at a certain price.
And that was my concern, was
Yeah.
that we were paying more,
Yep.
off the pump than what we would be getting
Yep.
on
Oh,
state
yeah,
contract
that
pricing.
would-
Now,
The
before
other
you
things-
move past that too, it was news to me when I saw the response that the ambulance revolving fund was being used for diesel fuel.
Right.
I'm not gonna say it wasn't, because we have a diesel fuel line within the fire department. So, I did talk with Chris the other day when we came in to talk about the agenda, And because he reviews all charges and that before we go and sign off on them, authorize them. And he showed me that a past board, not this current board, but a past board did go through and authorize about 6 line items.
Right.
Of which diesel fuel is one of them for use of for the ambulance only, for the reviews, for the use of those funds from the revolving fund to take care of it, so, but I wanna understand the cost too, because we really should be carrying it in one area, so that's something we need to look at.
So the other talking point was the chief had sent all of us a report giving us information regarding the collection of fees for ambulance transportation. And right now, according to his data, only about 11% of the transport billed is billed to insurance companies, and that's the 11% that we're actually getting paid on. So it's kind of making it look like a loss to run the ambulance in town. And just the example that I put together was $100,000 for a new employee to make sure that we can respond to ambulance calls 24/7, $400,000 for a new ambulance, but we're only projected to bring in $139,230 this year into the ambulance revolving fund. And if he's spending money on diesel fuel and any salaries and asking the BOS permission to take $100,000 out for over expenditures, I'm not exactly sure we're gonna have enough money in that account when it comes time to buy that ambulance. That
Yep.
he told the town wouldn't really cost us any money because we'd have it in the ambulance revolving fund. The ambulance revolving fund has slowly been going in the hole, and it doesn't necessarily mean because of the spending coming out of it, but the fact that there's no money going into it. So the other thing that I had read about was the fact that Frisbee Memorial Hospital is now going to be charging towns to run their ambulance up. So it doesn't matter whether or not it is a life-saving where it's a paramedic or whether it's regular, because they are a for-profit hospital, they are no longer going to give us free access to their ambulance services. So I'm wondering where we say it's time to give. The chief has admitted that he's having a hard time hiring staff due to our pay scale. And I'm wondering if it'd be prudent to look into a private ambulance service and just see what the costs would be. I know a lot of towns right now, even larger municipalities, are going the private route. I don't know. And the last sticking point with me, and I've been very vocal on this, is us responding to Middleton with our rig. We're only receiving $500 per call to respond to Middleton. I'm not sure if we're getting paid by the patients that we're taking out, but, according to the chief's data, we're only averaging $483 per ambulance call. That's what we're getting paid as a town. So, if we're looking to run an ambulance as a business, because we're responding to other towns, we're in the red right now. So, it'd be nice to gather the information from the chief, and we've asked him, what calls are Middleton, so we have an idea, but he hasn't been able to break that out for us as of yet. So, those are just kind of the things that have been sticking in my mind, and, and I've been thinking about it for a while, and I think just need to be answered and addressed.
First, I wanna thank you and Renata.
Yeah.
We've seen the questions. They're very valid questions. Those are the types of questions that we've asked, I know, and I have myself in the past. Because I definitely have my concerns too. Private ambulances is something that is a lot of towns have turned to because of the cost increase. There's no doubt about that. The data on the ambulance, just to make sure the public understands too, because Chief Kraus, sorry about that. Chief Chief Marik sent us the information. That's down at least $200 a call collecting. Average collection is about $200 less each call than it was 2 years ago. And majority of the calls are EMS type calls here in town. So we are definitely not getting the money back that it's costing us to run the ambulance at this point in time. It's just dwindling the accounts further and further down, so we are
If we're
gonna have to.
expecting to spend even $150,000 out of the revolving fund this year, we are taking money out that we're not getting in.
Mhm.
And I don't think the revolving fund can sustain that, I really don't.
No,
We're certainly not gonna have $400,000 in it, in 4 years to purchase that new rig. It's not realistic.
No, you're absolutely right.
Thank you for your time.
Yep.
Thank you,
Before
Laura.
you go, Laura, you guys have any, Claudine, you got any comments? I know you work with
Well,
the
I
budget
did,
committee.
yeah, I did have a question as far as outsourcing. Do we have any information of availability locally for something like that?
There is Stewart's, I think Stewart's is in Dover, there are a lot of different ambulance companies. I really didn't look into, the private ambulance sector. I know I've got, friends, kids that are paramedics that work for them. But I know even Dover now, the city of Dover actually uses Stewart's, on some of their calls. They still do have, their own, EMTs and paramedics, but, for the size of Dover, they're having to use private as well. But I just think that we're gonna end up paying private fees to begin with Frisbee when they have to come up here, that we're gonna end up getting double dinged.
Right.
Because we're gonna have to pay Frisbee as a town, and we're gonna have to pay, our own ambulance, if they respond as well, and we're still not getting paid. I mean,
Sure.
to
Mm.
look at his data and see that we're only getting 11%.
Yeah,
you know.
do you have that breakdown as to what we're receiving from Medicaid and,
we did
get some
or
of the
that
chief-
percent of what we're not getting? I know, I think that's something worth bringing back
He
in
did
again.
have that on, he did have the data on there, so I'll make sure, I did see it, I'll forward it out
Yeah.
again. I thought you guys might have, were on it, he may
I
have.
think we do, I just
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
have it in
But
front
But
of
no,
me, so I
that's
didn't know.
something we should certainly bring up at the meeting, we're
Because-
supposed to meet with him too.
I think the public needs to know that services are not getting paid. It has
Right.
nothing to do with
As a matter
the
of fact.
staffing itself, it's just the services aren't paying in that
No.
revolving account to support it, and that's
And
becoming the
I
problem.
think the other thing too is the fact that we have to look, at, the cost of maintaining the ambulance,
Mhm.
and understand that, we're having to pay collection agencies too, to
Mhm.
collect on these bills.
Which apparently is not very effective from what I understand from
No.
the chief either.
No, it's not, we only get a small percentage back, because you actually have to pay the collection agency a percentage of whatever they can collect.
Yep. Of what they
s-
collect.
Yeah, what they collect, right.
Yeah.
And so, you're making peanuts,
Mhm.
comparatively speaking. I don't know, I think they charge by the mile, and I don't know, but I know the last time, we had to, bring a family member via ambulance, it was $10,000 just to go from Frisbee Memorial Hospital to Portsmouth.
Hmm.
And I don't know how much our ambulance service costs, but if you're looking at how much we're getting paid to how much we're getting charged, or how much we're charging, it's not much.
Right.
I don't know if it even covers the gas or the salary
I don't
for
believe
two
it is.
people.
Looking at the numbers that we have here, just so we can talk to it. In 2020, the revenue was 190,210, which, by the way, in 2020 was down from the previous years. Revenue on average was $640 per trip. Right now, it's $483 per trip, and we know it's more costly today. When we were running the ambulance prior to Frisbee going private, supplies for the ambulance were replenished at Frisbee or whatever other hospital they went to without it costing us. Now it's costing us every time we gotta replenish equipment. So the revenues is dropping over $60,000 projected this year. Commercial, from 2020 to date, it was 23% were commercial payers. It's down to 11%, which means that's even less we're taking in. Medicaid is about the same, but last year Medicaid covered 22%. This year they've covered 14. Medicare has dropped too, from 49% to 42%, so that means we're not collecting from that either. And self-pay went from 8% to 23%, and without the collection agencies really getting the money, it means the bills aren't being paid. So the write-off from quitclaim meds, and Chris, thank you, because you went and asked for those, is showing that we're not getting the money out of the collection services
Yeah, I didn't. think it was
that
very
we
much.
need to. So it is definitely very concerning. Just so you know, Laura, I know Chief Marique was gonna be here tonight, but he's out. Our next meeting, hoping he's here for the 10th, to discuss his expenditures. So that would be something that, you could bring forward any of the questions that you have for that.
Definitely.
Because we did talk a little bit about it, and as you know, because I know that you guys asked him questions, currently, the part-time line is already at 104% expended
Right.
for the year, and that's 5 months through. There is no way we can sustain that type of cost, because that money would be coming back out of the revolving fund just to offset that. So that means whatever revenues we have this year as it's projected, there is
So
no
again,
gain.
negative.
Yeah, there'll be no gain. So we definitely have a lot of questions that we'll need to ask. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in closing, I mean, there is a lot of unanswered questions here with this topic.
Yep.
I mean, it would be nice, we can sit here and assume, without the chief being here to, to answer some of these
No, we
valid
need to-
questions, which I agree on, really, we could just sit here and talk about it. I mean, I know personally, I've used the ambulance, unfortunately, and it was at my house in 2 or 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I don't live far from the fire department, but I just don't know. I mean, we'll have to look into it. I have no problem getting, looking into and researching what, a private ambulance. I mean, there isn't any around here locally. I know there's one in Somersworth, but they would have to have ambulances in this area, and that's not gonna be cheap. But these are all answers, all good questions that have to be answered to move forward with this process, and then, put it in front of the voters.
Yep.
See what the voters wanna do. But really, we gotta just have the chief here.
Well, that's why I said,
Absolutely. And-
please come back and, during that meeting, so we will be talking about it.
Mr. Chairman, can I?
Yes.
I have to go to a call. Can I just touch on the WEX,
Yeah.
just so people understand?
Mm-hmm.
So just for WEX, just because at the pump you see, like, diesel is so we'll just go off of April. April, WEX averaged out at, diesel was $5.25 a gallon. So we paid $4.99 a gallon. So for any of our diesel trucks that went to Cumberland Farms to get that diesel, that's what we paid, was $4.99. So same thing for any of the gas vehicles. If you see the pump is, like, today it's $3.59, we'll pay is closer to $3.29 to take the cruisers there, or any other town vehicle to those ones. One of the reasons I don't send my cruisers to the state pumps, because I think the state pump is a little bit closer to $3 even, is I'm the only officer on. So if I'm at exit 16 in Rochester fueling up, and an emergency call comes in, it takes me a whole lot longer to put that pump back and fly back up Route 16 to get here. If I'm at Cumberland Farms or I'm at the Mobile on 75, I could just put the pump up and I'm anywhere in town very, very quickly. So it's a response thing for me as to why we're not going. The savings is gonna be minuscule for fuel in the cruisers. My guess is for the ambulance is probably the same thing. You're gonna find that the savings is gonna be minuscule as to having the ambulance at exit 16 to have to come all the way back here for an emergency call instead of going to get diesel. If they're going to get diesel at the Cumberland Farms in Rochester, other than the Mobile, then I guess the response would be the same, but that's how WEX works with the costs.
Yeah. And I'll have to clarify it with him because I thought that I had asked about using Wex and he said no, but it may have been a miscommunication. So I'll ask
I
again.
mean, that's what they use is Wex. I send out the bill for everybody every month.
Okay.
So, the ambulance uses Wex.
Okay,
I believe highway is using Wex for gas, but their diesel is, at the state pumps.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, all town vehicles and then my vehicles go to, Cumberland Farms to get gas, just because it's easier to keep them in town.
Yeah.
And the savings is
Mm.
kind of awesome.
I know the big buses go to the state pumps,
right.
but,
Yeah.
the small buses,
For the large volume, it makes
Yeah.
sense to go
Mhm.
to the state barn to get the fuel.
And when there's not a need for a delay.
Right.
I mean, if there's a delay in emergency response because we're driving to exit 16, people aren't gonna be too happy.
Right.
If there's no need for a delay and
Right.
you can go get a cheaper fuel, then go get the cheaper
Yeah.
fuel, and
Yep.
that's what we would do.
Yeah.
Um,
Like on your way home from a
Yeah.
call, dropping off in Frisbee on your way back to Milton,
Yep.
stop and top off, then head back in, something like that, yeah.
I got a call
Thank
to
you.
go to now.
Thank you.
All right. Just before we leave that though, and Laura, just to address it, we will need to ask, I definitely want to understand what the fuel costs have been,
Mm-hmm.
because we're paying some under the diesel line item and some out of the revolving fund, so
Right.
we need to have a better understanding of the total cost when we talk
Right.
with them, so.
And I think that was the major question was why is the diesel staying stagnant?
Yep, yeah, that's,
when
and that was a
it's gone
valid
up like
question.
$3 a gallon.
Yep.
So,
No, that was a very valid question, thank you. All right, next order of business is the internet and phone services. Chris and I will work through a plan, made sure that got sent out, for you guys to take a look at. After going through all of it, the difference between BreezeLine and the Consolidated Communications was quite a difference. I mean, a $61,000 difference.
Mm.
BreezeLine was $61,000 more. Now,
By
when
the
you,
way, that's over 5 years.
right,
Um,
so it's $12,000 more each year is
each
what
year,
it broke down
right.
to. A little over 12,000.
Because the BreezeLine had a 5-year minimum term in their contract.
Hmm.
And it's because they've got to recover the cost of putting the fiber all the way up through. So I understood, so, this is the way I used to do solid waste contracts, when you had to sign for a 5-year period. You always wanted to look at, what were the costs going forward and average it out over the 5 years. And none of the two contracts talked about a cost increase or a rate increase. So just before we sign any contract, we'll wanna make sure that, so that analysis is truthful, is that those rates are somewhat solid for that 5-year period.
Yep.
Otherwise, it makes the analysis worthless.
Mm.
So the other piece though is we did go through and look at the other costs that we were aware of. Sewer, the highway. Pat Smith contacted me because we were talking about basic service versus the higher rate of speed. Not looking to take anything away from the highway department because we know we're paying a little extra for that because of the fact that the basic speed is worse than dial-up.
Well, the other thing is if they charge us, let's say they charge us in round numbers $100 for the service, they're also giving us a credit,
Right,
as he explained it
for
to
the
me,
basic, yeah.
of what the basic would have
Yep.
been. So it's really,
So he's only paying like $74 a month, and for what needs to be done for the speed, that's giving them everything they need. I know that it's not just the highway, but everything dealing with the cemetery and all that goes through Jenny's
Yep.
business over there, so they gotta be able to run it. But what did surprise us was some of the stuff at the fire department, which we'll need to talk with the chief about, for some of the costs. I don't wanna go into all the details tonight. And also with the beach, that I wasn't aware until we found out that we're actually using the beach revolving fund to pay for the additional speed over there.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's just, we need to understand all of that. But in order for us to do what we need to do at the town hall, we can vote on
No, I agree.
on the need to move forward with the fiber for the fire, for the police, obviously, and for the town hall. So, after looking at the data, you guys agree with the consolidated?
Yeah, absolutely.
Most definitely.
So, I will make a motion to move forward with Consolidated Communications for the fiber optic installation
I'll-
contract.
Whatever.
I'll second.
Go for it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah,
All right.
you have to have that
Thank you,
quick
Gizmo.
second button.
Yep, we'll just have a button for that, second for
I
all.
mean, we should ask Consolidated, I mean, I know Breeze Lines in Milton, and I know we have a contract with them, but we should maybe look into some other avenues for,
We
you
can
know.
certainly look to try to save some money. One of the things I do
mean, for
wanna bring up.
townwide.
Yeah, but one of the things I was gonna bring up is First Light and Consolidated Communication, although Laura does, they're not the same company, but they work in conjunction with each other, and they do the same thing, and we wanna make sure we're not double paying for the service.
Right.
So some of that, we've definitely still gonna have to look into the reduction, but we need to move forward with the fiber optic installation so we can get the new town hall up and running.
Mhm.
So,
Did they give a time frame? When it was
that's
here?
what we gotta go and,
I don't know, I was
no, we
gonna
gotta go and
discuss
look
it
at
with the
that now.
chief, cause he was the primary
Right.
contact on this.
When Chief Kraus comes back, I think he can give us the
Walk over
info,
to me.
when we talk with him about the,
We're
payroll
gonna answer
issues.
for it tomorrow.
And just going back to, you know, the statement I just made, I mean, it wouldn't hurt for us, to
look into them.
look into other avenues for cable for the
I
town of
agree.
Milton.
Oh, you're-
Because, you know, it seems like we're bent right over here with Breeze Line
It's a
and
monopoly. It's
Mhm.
not fair.
and-
Yeah, that's, federal government has made it the lack of competition that we can
So-
still look into as a community.
Yeah, so
Find
maybe,
out what we can do.
we can, once we get a small breath here, we can
Yep.
maybe look at some different avenues,
Yeah.
with some different, I know, I did look into it a few years ago, and the problem is, a new company would have to put new lines through the whole town. We only have about 900 customers. Would it be worth their while of, you know, taking on such a,
Yeah.
you know, a task where they wouldn't be able to use Breeze Line's, you know, system here, they'd have to
Mhm.
put their own. But it wouldn't hurt for us just to look, cause we are kind of, you know, the taxpayers' advocates when it comes to the internet
Right.
service here in
Mhm.
town,
Yep,
so
exactly.
we should maybe look into something,
Nope.
that, some different things here.
Nope, definitely something we can go look into, I agree. All right, anything else on that?
Nope.
So, Chris, you move forward with contacting them, and
Yep.
you get the staff meeting tomorrow, you can find out what we got. All right, Independence Day Parade, review of the parking with the police department. I know the chief just left, but, I talked with him the other day. What he was talking about is he's gonna go in with whichever other officer is on duty with him. They will, on Independence Day, they'll go in about an hour before the parade is ready to get everything set up. Parking will be he told me it would be along the cemetery area. But any of the handicap personnel that needed to be able to get in, they'd open it up so that they can be dropped off before the start of the parade, and then picked up once the parade is done, so that we wouldn't have to cause anybody any undue harm trying to get to and from the location. We know we'll be starting at the library, but we're limited. We don't have the space because of the parade over there, so this will at least enable people to be able to drive in. At one point, we talked about the bend right there, just as you're turning in, there's a little gravel area, but there's really it's no better there than it would be just to be back on the main road. And you can't get back out while the parade's going on. So this would afford us the opportunity to be able to bring the people in and not have the vehicle issues we had during the Memorial Day parade.
Mhm.
I know I don't wanna be running after cars again,
No.
so I'm not built for that anymore. So, all right. So we're ready to move forward with that, so just thank you for getting all the information in, Ann, on the parade, I appreciate that. All right, under old business, Chris, I know we had the Verdantis contract has been adjusted.
Yeah, the original contract was for $25,000. We went back and forth like a tennis ball game this past week, or last week. You've got the new amount.
4,650?
4,600, so.
Yep.
As I said to them, I can only sign a contract for what you can get done in this.
Yep.
In the remaining 6 months of the year. They wanted a contract that would go till 24, and I said where the money really didn't get allocated, and I'm gonna, while it's mandatory for us to do, I'm gonna have to take it out of some other close line, like, you know, cause it's MS4, I treat it like the environmental studies for around Lockhart Field, things like that nature, so it'll come out of a similar line.
Mm-hmm.
But there was no way that the town could, swing
Yeah, the 24.
25,000,
Yep.
so you have a much reduced contract. And
Yep.
I also asked them, please, we're entering the budget season, we need a contract by September for the 24 work.
Yeah.
So that it can be included in the budget. I think it would be a default item because it's a
It's a
federally
contract that's required.
mandated program.
Yep.
Much akin to running the wastewater treatment plant. So, those were my discussions with them.
Nope. You guys have a chance to look at that?
Yep.
So, you wanna make the motion? Or I'll just
Go
make
ahead,
a motion
Chris.
to move forward with the $4,650 for Verdantis, for Verdantis.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right.
I mean, we gotta look at some grant, I mean, you know, we're a small little town here and we're struggling.
Yep.
And I understand that, the MS4 is, you know, it's mandated by, you know, the state or the government.
It's the
But-
EPA passing.
Right, but we gotta see if we can maybe find some help out there.
Some of the
Um,
towns are getting that for some of these types of things, so we've gotta go to the, we definitely gotta go forward with some
Yeah.
research on that.
Because it's a lot of money for a small town, and
Mhm.
I know we live around the water and stuff, and I know it's important to try to preserve what we have, but, you know, it's at the cost of the taxpayers, and we gotta try to figure out, maybe there's some grants or some help out there from the government, cause since they're mandating it, so why don't they help us?
I agree.
Yep.
So, I don't know, there's gotta be something, we should probably
check
look into
into that.
something, yeah.
I can ask.
Yeah,
Well, maybe even, you know, Verdantis, maybe they have an idea, maybe where we could get some help.
Didn't they help
Where
us
we're
with a grant
finding-
on this?
Where we're finding the help is, for instance, under the same, that $100,000 grant that we got to study the lake water quality
Mm-hmm.
is in part gonna answer
The MS.
some of the MS4 questions.
Yeah.
So we are getting some grant money, but it's to answer specific questions or items or issues raised under the MS4.
Mhm.
For instance, I think the nitrogen study, but it's not just gonna be nitrogen, nitrogen phosphates, suspended solids, water temperature, water salinity, any number of things, is gonna show them that we're really not polluting the water, or if we are, it's this issue. And because the MS4 is a broad brush, and they want you to look at this, and that's why you have to go after targeted money. For instance, let's say you're a community that everybody used lawn fertilizer. Well, then you'd go after a targeted program to reduce lawn fertilizer use townwide. There would be a grant for that.
Right.
There would be a grant for, let's say you needed to get everybody's yard waste, and you needed to start a composting program so that the yard waste doesn't get dumped in wetlands and other areas where it breaks down and that degrades the water. Well, you can get a grant for that. But to get a grant just for MS4, it's such a broad stroke, nobody wants to do it. But if you can identify, like, let's say replacing 10 catch basins would improve, would trap more sediment and help the lake water quality, you can get a grant for that. So that's it. There have to be very more
So-
targeted
Yeah,
than
so it
just
sounds
say
like
the
once we
whole
get some
MS
of
thing.
these answers from,
Yeah,
you know,
From what they're
Conservation?
doing and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yes.
The GIS mapping that they're doing right now is for MS4 runoff as well, so.
Correct.
That information, once we have that all laid out, will also help us identify targeted areas, so. But you're right, we definitely gotta go out, try to get what we can for
Yeah.
assistance, cause we can't keep piling it on.
mhm.
Yeah, all right,
But mark my words, because I've said this in other communities. The day is coming when the federal government is gonna consider stormwater, just like they consider wastewater in sewage lines.
mhm.
yeah,
Because what they're asking us to test for, when I mention those parameters,
Oh, yeah.
nitrates, phosphates, suspended solids, chlorine content, chlorides, sodium, turbidity, pH, are all the same constituents
Right.
that we test for wastewater. So we're actually gathering the numbers as a
Mhm.
region statewide that the EPA is gonna use to go, I got you.
Yeah.
And now you have to do this.
But they already know that they've been dumping into the rivers for years, and that's the reason those studies are
And
coming
this all
about.
backs up from Great Bay, where
Yep.
they said, oh, nitrogen is what has eliminated the eelgrass. They had one study, they based all their science on one study, way back in 2013, and we all said, no, you. So we've all been getting grant money to fight the EPA, or participate in an educated way with the EPA. And that's what all this is about,
okay.
so.
Yes,
So I know it's, you're I'm sensing, you're feeling the frustration I've felt in dealing with
Well,
it
it's like,
for
Oh, yeah.
years.
it's like, you know, like Humphrey said, you know, we just can't keep piling all this onto the taxpayers,
Right.
so we gotta just,
Well, at one time, in 13, when they started the program, they wanted every catch basin cleaned every year, whether it needed it or not. And we're like, you know, I could tell you in Summersworth, the ones at the bottom of Noble Street filled 3 times a year. So we went out and maintained them 3 times a year. But the one over on Rocky Point Road, once every 5 years. So they finally relented and said, oh, okay, if they're over 50% full, just go check them each year. So it's those kind of, they push, we push back, and then we get this middle of the road thing. They were assuming that none of us did any catch basin cleaning. No, that's not the fact at all, that none of us did street sweeping. We were always doing these things.
well, it's easy for big communities to absorb that, but
Right,
for a little
exactly.
town,
Don't.
Milton,
Right.
it's much tougher, so.
Right.
Anyways, I know.
You're right. All right, next up, the 549 White Mountain Highway. I know we got a status update. They've done the asbestos inspection, but we're just waiting on the results.
Yes.
So that one will, and they will be tearing it down.
Doug Racka says that as soon as that comes back, he gets that'll let him know what other measures, if he has to handle any asbestos,
What he's
what
gonna
he,
do
to
first.
give his clients for a contract, and then we'll get started.
Yep.
And I've repeatedly told him that when it does have to start, that we do need to meet with police and fire
yeah.
and public works ahead of time. I want fire department on standby because it's such an old building. If we spark something,
There's no
get out
doubt,
of
they gotta be,
control real quick.
Yep.
And it's only the 2 lanes through town. He can't be setting the excavator up in the southbound lane and putting his canister in the northbound lane. It's just not gonna work.
Nope.
So that's all gonna have to be coordinated.
Right.
And if
But
it
we will
means
definitely
extra
work
time,
with them.
huh?
We definitely will work with them
Oh, yeah.
because
Oh, well,
this is
no,
a-
we'll
That's a
definitely,
major
we all wanna
advantage, have
work
that
with 'em,
taken
but at
down.
the same time,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
I just don't wanna see him show up on a Monday morning and start going to town.
and the owners did express to us in the meeting that they not only wanna tear it down, but they wanna rebuild it with something useful for downtown while they can, so that's a major plus. All right, Community Power Action Committee, we know that has gone nowhere. We haven't
did
gotten any
ask-
volunteers.
I did talk to John Del Signori from Community
Yep,
Power.
oh, yep,
He's going to, I told him that we wanted to put something on the website to better explain it,
Mhm.
condense all that information. His person who does that website production for them was on vacation this
Okay.
past week.
Okay.
That was last week. That they'd be back. He approached them, and I'm expecting a call later this week to say, yeah, we can do it, and they could clean up one of their prior online presentations, make it a little smaller so that we can post it on the website, because that was,
Yeah, it was one of the
board's
things we
suggestion.
wanna do, try to attract
did-
somebody to do it. Help
I had a
us.
short 20-minute conversation with John, so.
Short 20 minute? That's good.
And I know this topic was talked about on, I don't know, our Milton homepage or some page in Milton, and, you know, I don't know if anybody else read it, the topic, but if you're not on Facebook, that's good. But anyways, they asked the selectmen if we could, you know, help out this matter, and we're trying to put this committee together
Yep.
to, you know, try to fight,
Rising cost of
Rise-
electricity.
And it's a committee that has a defined scope in that they get us to, by December, having a warrant article drafted that goes on the March ballot, that, you know, again, people can vote for to say, yeah, they wanna do this or they don't wanna do this. Because the way the state wrote the legislation and the rules is, for a community as a whole to do this, you have to form a committee, you have to form a warrant article, and you have to get it approved.
Mhm.
Without it,
It goes away.
everybody would be left, you'd call up somebody, Ann would call up somebody different, Laura would call up, you'd buy your own power, and you'd play Power Lotto every week or every month, cause I know that's what Karen and I are doing presently. We have to go through this process, and it shouldn't be just the selectmen shouldn't be the power committee, because for various reasons, I don't think the legislature wanted the selectmen to either force this through the town, or they drafted it, they want the townspeople to say they either want it or they don't want it, and that's why it has to be this way, so,
Yep.
that's all.
All right, next one is the Dawson Street sidewalk repairs, and I wanna put out a thank you to, Pat Smith and his crews. They did go out and patch it, and, of course, there'll be more repairs coming once we go through with the next couple phases of work that are over in that area, but for right now, it's a lot safer than it was, and very thankful that we got that done. The website, and I know we'll still be talking about that later on to
Yeah.
try to, but,
I
and,
will add to that, go ahead.
no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I will add to that, I did meet with Pat today, and, they are going after a sidewalk grant, that's quite substantial, so that, you know, if we get it, it'll really help the town of Milton, so
Hmm.
I know he is working on something like that, just so you know.
Well, I also know that I got something, what I was gonna say is gonna go and get something from Bruce Woodruff today dealing with the Dawson Silver Street work. Chris, you might have seen that. And I don't know if you guys have looked into it yet, but part of that is also going to be the facilities, and that's the next phase of the work. Sidewalk design, everything, preliminary design, this is the right-of-way acquisitions and the facilities for pedestrians and bicycles. So that's all gonna include the sidewalk
Right.
repairs and everything else. So
I think
they're gonna be meeting sometime this
Wednesday-
week,
Wednesday at 10, I think.
Yeah,
I'll have to check
it
my
is.
email.
That's what Pat told me,
so.
this Wednesday.
So that is the follow-on we were just talking about a little bit here, so that is the next phase of work. All right, so like I said, workshop we'll work on a workshop later on, once we get hooked up with the new facility and everything else and figure out where we're at. Fire chief, we got this down there because we said we're gonna review the budget and expenses, hopefully we'll get him to commit to the next meeting on that. Communications, we got any?
There were just a couple of wetlands permitting letters that came back and forth.
Yeah, I did see part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent you rather than put it under communications, I sent
The
you,
Kenny,
Executive Counselor Kenny's,
Yep.
weekly email schedule just to you directly.
alright, yeah, so the DES stuff that's in here, thank you. Next part, anything, any communications, anything else?
No, I just have some under other business.
Okay, well, that's the next one, other business that may come before the board.
I just have, so I did talk with Pat Smith today. He wants to move forward with buying this year's, sand. You know, we're back in July here and, you know, we need to get, you know, moving forward with, the winter stuff unfortunately coming. So, he has 1,500 tons, and it's $8.50 a ton plus $4 a ton on shipping. So 1,500 tons comes up to roughly 19,000. It's in his budget. He just wants the okay for us to move forward, for him to get this.
Okay.
So I said I'll bring it to the board.
19,000?
Yeah, that's roughly 19,000. I did the math. It's like
Okay.
18.
1250, yeah, 1250 times 1,500, so, just under 19,000. Alright,
I mean, of course, it's in his budget. He budgets for sand,
I appreciate him coming to us.
winter materials.
It's got a rather
So-
large pile there, do we actually need it?
That's what we gotta find out is what the,
Well, the way
Yeah,
he
maybe
explained it, I mean, when I was in DPW myself, and of course Chris, I mean, he was the top dog. But, you know, sand freezes, unfortunately. And if you don't have an abundance, you know, it's uncovered. We don't have a place to cover sand. We have a place to cover salt, but not sand. So, once it freezes, if you don't have, you know, an adequate pile, you know, frost sets in 3-4 feet, and then you're dealing with, you know, big clumps of sand, and you're trying to get it onto the trucks, and it's just a bear. So this is what he's asked for. He's asking for it, so evidently he knows that this is what he needs. So.
he came to us first, that's the key, so. You wanna make a motion on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll make a motion to have him move forward with buying the sand that he usually does every year.
Yeah.
So,
Second,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, alright, thank
it's not
you.
like he's asked, the
No,
money's there.
just I appreciate him
It's just-
coming to us to make sure that we,
Is there a way that we can cover that during the
Well,
winter?
it's a pile, such a
I know,
pile. I
but-
mean, I was in Barrington, we couldn't cover it there, and,
Mm.
you know, a lot of towns unfortunately are moving away from the sand because it ties back into the MS4.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
you put the sand down, and then you gotta pick it back up. It's a vicious cycle.
We can start using beets, like in Idaho.
Yeah,
That's, like
know
the
that?
ship,
yeah.
the shipyard
Idaho
uses
does
beet
not-
juice.
Does not grow potatoes, they grow beets.
Yep.
And
beet-
that's what they use for their roads.
Beet juice is
Yeah.
used in a
We'll
lot
have
of areas.
red roads.
No, I mean, the state has even tried, beet,
Oh, they
juice.
have tried
Oh,
it?
Oh, yeah.
sure, but,
It smells great when they spray the
Yeah.
whole area down too.
Does it
But-
stain the cars?
I mean,
It
not
washes off, it does wash off.
It does wash off? Oh.
Not
But the
necessarily.
thing is it's like when they put it down, it's a few days of, like you're in a swamp.
Hmm,
Yeah.
nice.
It's a wonderful smell. I know,
I mean,
used
of
to,
course,
used to waft up to my office area
yeah. Of
every
course, they
time
use
they did
brine
it.
on the highways.
Yeah,
Smaller towns are starting to use brine. You know, they put it out before the storms, and it's supposed to help. But unfortunately, we use sand here, and we're gonna pay for it now. We're gonna pay for it in the
It's too bad we
spring.
can't like collect it
So-
and reuse it.
yeah.
Anyways,
Yes,
But
it
anyways,
is,
yeah, we can look at alternatives going forward if
Sure.
we can, but I don't believe there's any alternative out there right now that's that much cheaper either, so.
Yeah.
I'm saying, so,
no.
unfortunately. Any other business? All right, next up is approval of minutes, June 5th public minutes.
I read them. Are you guys all set with them?
I am all set with them.
Yes,
I'll make a motion to accept the June 5th minutes as written.
Yeah.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I don't have them here for you to sign.
No, it's
Copy
all
them
right.
before the end of the night.
Okay. we
Bring
can
them
s-
out.
We can sign them afterwards. Stop in this week. So, any public comments related to topics discussed tonight? No? Expenditure report, biggest thing we've got is really the next one, because in going over them, we're in pretty good shape, but the fire department we need to talk about the fire department expenditures at this point, so.
I did get the May, legal billings, and,
Oh, okay, yeah,
at least we haven't kept up to the rate that we were in the first 3 months.
slowed down again for May,
We're at 55%.
but we were,
Yeah, we were
We were-
49% 2 months ago, so.
yeah, so good.
Yeah, so much more,
We're actually almost at the 50% mark, so,
like our general representation this month was only $71. That means we only called them for 3 minutes.
Yep.
And, they're even doing the same thing, I know, on the 3M suit, where 3M is suing everybody in the state,
mm-hmm,
or the state themselves. They shared that bill, meaning distributed it evenly over all their clients. They did the same thing with PSNA, has actually asked again for a tax rebate.
oh, yeah.
And so they divided that all up,
I don't
and we
think
only
he
had
does
to
a
pay
rebate.
$173 this month, so we're getting treated
Fairly on that,
fairly.
yeah.
But, and we haven't had any new legal hiccups come along, so it's been
Got
kinda
some of the
quiet.
highest electrical costs in the country, right here.
Yep.
And they want a rebate.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's why they didn't get it. It's not just the cost, it's what they're asking for. All right, Chris, you're up.
I am.
Yeah, it's your turn.
What now?
We
I don't
start
know,
off with our next,
He's been kinda
our
ping-ponging
next
through
meeting.
all night,
Yeah,
so.
I know.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Losing my mind.
That's why I figured I'd help you out there.
Thanks. Yeah, so your next, board meeting will be on the 28th. That's when we've moved the, workshop with Wright Pierce to go over the sewer plant facility study to that date. And then
Mhm.
the second half would be to discuss with all the staff that wanna show up,
Grades.
department heads and individual staff members, what they'd like to see within the future grade and step plan. The next public meeting of the board will be July 10th. And just again, to reiterate, I did send, on to New Hampshire DOT for requesting permission to place our signs along Route 125. They don't really have a,
There's no signed policy
Signed
for
permit
125,
policy.
but you still gotta
yeah,
talk with them just to
so
address
he
it.
had to kick it up to like highway safety, just to make sure we weren't blocking an intersection or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't expect a major hiccup on that, it's just, that's the process.
Yeah, you gotta have a setback on that corner, but.
Yeah.
On our meeting on the 28th, we may need to set aside a non-public time for any of the pay raises too, cause
Oh, yeah, okay,
I don't know how many we're gonna get through, but,
all right.
and we're not gonna have, probably aren't gonna have, well, we know we're not gonna have all of the stuff before the 10th,
Yeah, sure.
so.
Okay.
Make sure that that's understood.
So while we're talking about the town hall, Chris, so we're waiting on the fiber,
Mm-hmm.
and have you got any
On the movers,
on the movers, anything?
and I even did an inventory, how many chairs, how many filing cabinets, and it was kind of funny. Maybe I'm ahead of the curve, so when I call them, they go, so what do you need, a Thursday or Friday? Next month, Thursday or Friday. Oh, call us then. I'm like, wouldn't you wanna know?
Have a
or
time
something?
frame? Yeah.
So I'm just that guy that likes to
I
know.
mean, we should get a quote on
Yeah.
what it's gonna cost, and then maybe we could, do like the custodians did, cleaning. My
Yeah.
custodians, or the town's custodians at the school, clean the town hall.
Right.
Maybe we could, see if they're interested in
Right.
maybe some of the town guys at the highway, see if they're interested, see if it's cost effective.
It was far more cost effective for the cleaning.
Yeah,
Oh.
Yeah,
So it
that
was
was-
just rent
Yeah,
a
rent a
truck?
U-Haul.
So, yeah,
And then
you rent
just have-
U-Haul.
Yeah.
I think the hardest thing, the risk we have would be, somebody injuring themselves.
Right.
Because some of those, I didn't envision we're gonna empty any of the cabinets, that they actually make dollies and hand trucks and whatever, and to roll them right out into the truck. Matter of fact, one of them commented to me, he was in Industrial Moving Inc. or something. They liked the fact that the stairs in front of Town Hall, they would literally back up the truck within, as close as they could get it.
the ramp
Just
right
use
up
a set of
top.
rollers and a ramp
Mhm.
and roll everything in the truck. And then they said, so is it the same way at the new location? No, the new location, everything's at grade. Oh, okay. Meaning, but at least they got gravity going with them.
Well, we could, for that, cause like Ryder has like a lift gate. You know, we have, at the school, we have all the means, all the rollers, cause we empty the classrooms in the summer. We put everything on rollers. You gotta work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
And, I'm just throwing it out there. I haven't asked my guys.
Yeah, no,
but-
that's a good, I didn't
Finding the price is the right thing to do, and then see what we can do.
Yeah, you gotta figure out what it's
Yeah.
gonna cost to move town hall
Yep.
first. It's not gonna be cheap, I can guarantee
Well, and we
you
gotta
that.
arrange for the computer equipment, the electronics and that with Great Bay and.
So
a
the
few other
idea
things,
was
so-
to close on a Friday. I talked to, Back Bay says, I just need like a 4-hour block of time,
Mhm.
cause it's unplug and replug.
Right.
Yeah, we never have problems moving equipment.
Mm.
Computer? So, they're talking just, and then the phones. And that's why I like what Consolidated had to say. They could literally give us the web portal and we could literally go in and say,
We're
forward
there.
all calls as of this moment, hour and date
Mhm.
to this location. And thus, have that be more seamless. That's the other thing
That's a plug and
Praying
go?
on. Huh?
It's like a plug and go?
Oh, I think you have to hit return and it's supposedly done, yeah. So those are that's the iffy that I don't know, but the idea was close on a Friday, do that. Make sure everybody's got everything labeled and packaged and start to move on Friday and Saturday. And a couple of the departments, said, hey, if I could have a quiet Sunday or a Monday to make sure I have everything and then reopen on a Tuesday morning.
Mhm.
Okay.
And that seems to be the,
No matter what, whatever week we decide that we're gonna go and open up the new town hall, we have to plan for the whole week to be some sort of issue that
Yeah.
needs to be resolved, so.
Mhm.
we've
I have
gotta
to
go through
rely on
those.
some of the, the consultants to say, oh yeah, no, it's just okay.
Yep. The easier they say it's gonna be, the more you gotta plan for contingencies,
Yes.
so.
Well, as soon as we find out, a price from a mover,
Yeah,
Yep.
okay,
then we can move forward.
I'll push
maybe.
harder on that.
Yeah, and then, like I
Asking.
said, the biggest thing still to turn around and go, just Chief, when you were out, we did vote to go forward with Consolidated Communications to put the fiber in, so we just need to find out when they can get us and hooked up.
And what's the plan for highway, the beach, and
Right now, we're gonna stay with the breeze line part that we're dealing with, but we will look to see what else we can change as we go forward. Okay? So, and the reason I mentioning that is because we obviously need to have the town hall hooked up before we can move anything, so. All right, any other comments, Andy? That was yours?
Are we at selectmen
got-
comments?
Yes, selectmen comments.
Yes, I just wanted to state that capital improvements planning committee's been meeting, and we're meeting again this Wednesday. I
Mhm.
believe we're speaking to Chief Kraus and to Town Administrator, so we can hear about the plans that they have and how we can better help save moving forward for projects that are pretty big, so we'll be having that, and I think we're starting to meet, we've had some change dates due to scheduling conflicts. it is Wednesdays, but it was the first and third, and I think we're now back to second and fourth, or vice versa. So what is this week? Is this a third Wednesday?
Third.
Yeah, so I think we're back to first and third Wednesday.
Okay. Yeah,
At
I know
6:30.
that's why
Yeah.
we bounced our meeting a
Yeah.
couple different ways, so that's why
Well,
we're
we
meeting
have-
next Wednesday instead of this Wednesday.
Just so the public understands, the capital improvements committee has people that are from other committees. And so those committees meet on those days as well. So we, or one, but it's
Yep.
important that they're at our meeting as well. So we have to move around sometimes, so,
Yep.
but that's, I think, all I have.
You got anything?
I just have, school's out, tomorrow's the last day, half day. As Chief Kraus was addressing, speeders, the kids are gonna be out of school now, so let's tone it back a little bit. I know I live on Tenerife Road, and I think yesterday I saw a car must have been going up 75 miles an hour. It's like, really? So,
Maybe it just
Not
sounds
the
like it.
motorcycles and the four-wheelers.
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it just sounds like it,
Yeah.
because my street's been pretty loud too.
No,
A whole bunch of
he
them.
was going, and it's like so ignorant and
Mhm.
careless.
It's not even residential people either, I
Yeah.
was driving up 75, I live on Newton, and I was going home, and I wanna say Urban Tree, he was bombing down 75, and I was like, oh, you can slow it down, but
So anyways, the moral of it, school's out tomorrow, half day, and they'll be out all summer, so just look out for rolling balls and stuff, because there's
Yep.
kids behind them.
Absolutely. And as the chief said earlier, I do know that we've had some issues in some of the surrounding areas with thefts and things like that. Suspicious activity, even over in our area here recently. Please report that to the police department, anything along those lines. The reason I'm bringing it up, same thing with people speeding or not watching out for the kids out there. Let's be safe. So, with that in mind, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Well, second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. And then we gotta enter into a non-public.
Thank you all for coming.
Yes, thank you very much tonight. So we're entering a non-public in accordance with 91A3. And I will stop this.